here in the garden, I really want to encourage you to think about these thoughts today. Jesus came here and he fought with a cup. He said, "Not my will, but your will be done." And he ultimately agreed to that cup. But what was that cup? What was that cup? And I think it's helpful for us to know he came here to fulfill all the law and the prophets. Is there a law that could have been fulfilled here in this garden? I believe there was. In Numbers chapter 5, we read about the test for an unfaithful wife. The reality is God is a jealous God, and his bride is for no one else but him. However, Israel's history teaches us in Jeremiah chapter 3 that God divorced Israel. Sounds so ending, but we can't think of divorce the way man thinks of divorce. We must think about it in the fact that God didn't stop loving Israel, yet he did divorce her. Not only did he divorce her, he kicked her out of the house and his land. In fact, she was sent into the nations. However, things got a little bit worse with God's marriage problem, because Israel did not learn the lesson in the nations right away. In fact, God's love didn't stop for her. His love gets deeper and deeper because his name is jealous. He's a jealous God. Israel committed adultery in the nations. Israel was unfaithful in the nations. The Bible speaks about this over and over again. Sadder yet is because of God's law, he cannot remarry his divorced bride, his divorced wife. Once he has divorced her, sent her into the nations, and the bride becomes unfaithful in the nations again. And we read about that in Deuteronomy chapter 24, 1-3. So now the problem of marriage is very, very serious. Yes, God has a very serious marriage problem. However, we know through Romans chapter 7, you study it, Paul teaches that even though a woman is unfaithful, she can be set free from the law of marriage. How? When the husband dies, even if she's been unfaithful. This is where I see Jesus as God so clearly, because Jesus came to earth. Jesus came to earth to die. Jesus came to earth to die so as to be raised from the dead, so as to enter into a new covenant of marriage with a bride that once was divorced, once sent away. But yet, prior to dying, he came to this garden, he drank a cup. What cup did he drink? I believe the message is in Numbers chapter 5, where we read about it beginning in verse 11, about the test for an unfaithful wife unto the end. However, let me pick it up in verse 20, and please study it on your own so that you can get the fullness of what's spoken here and the fullness of what Jesus has fulfilled. But if you have gone astray while married to your husband, and you have defiled yourself by sleeping with a man other than your husband, here the priest is to put the woman under the curse of an oath. May the Lord cause your people to curse and denounce you when he causes your thigh to waste away and your abdomen to swell. May this water that brings a curse enter your body so that your abdomen swells and your thigh wastes away. The reality, if a husband felt that his wife was unfaithful, he could take her to the priest, and the priest would give her a cup of the bitter curse. And if she would drink it, and if she was unfaithful, that bitter curse would show in her body. And it says here, then the woman is to say, verse 22, Amen, so be it. It's just like Jesus in this garden. Amen, your will, not my own will. Verse 23, the priest is to write these curses on a scroll and then wash them off into the bitter water. He shall have the woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and this water will enter her and cause bitter suffering. Jesus came to this garden. Jesus chose to drink the cup himself. Jesus chose to have that bitter suffering in this garden, to set that woman, that bride, completely free, because he was beginning a journey to a new covenant of marriage that would come to this garden and end at a cross. But it never really ended there. He would be buried, and he would ultimately rise again. Ultimately, he would do much more, because his spirit would be poured out yet on another people, not his people. And they would be allowed to be a part of this bride again in this new covenant of marriage. You need to realize that, verse 29, this then is the law of jealousy. When a woman goes astray and defiles herself while married to her husband, or when feelings of jealousy come over a man because he suspects his wife, the priest is to have her stand before the Lord and is to apply this entire law to her. This entire law was applied to Jesus. He took the curse that was meant for the bride. He drank that cup. Because God was so in love, and is still so in love with his bride, that he was preparing to come back again, but he would need to die to set her free from the law of marriage. He took upon the curse himself. He would rise from the dead, and we are waiting for that day. He's been betrothed, but we're waiting for the day he's coming back again. And I'll tell you, that's going to be some wedding. What time of year will that be? In the season of Tabernacles. I'm speaking to you today in the season of Tabernacles, the last and greatest day of that feast. Please, let me encourage you today. It's great as a Christian to have the New Testament, but understand that that New Testament is made much more powerful when we understand the law and the prophets, and we understand the Word made flesh, Jesus Christ, came to fulfill the law and the prophets. Not one jot or tittle will be removed until there's not a heaven and earth. And anything that he did not fulfill as the Son of Man, he wants to fulfill through you. He wants you to be so filled to him and so dead to self that he can continue to fulfill the law and the prophets through you until he comes back again for the glory of his great name. From the Garden of Gethsemane in Jerusalem. God bless you.